All right, so remember, the quadratic equation in standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And then Leslie, after you write that, come in, show us root or 0. So a root or 0 is the x-intercept of the graph, and it also happens to be the answers to the equation. So we look at this equation here, x squared equals -4 equals 0. And if we look at the answers to that equation, Brandon, you want to move this box over on the other side. 2 and -2 are the roots or the zeros of the equation. And when we plug those back into here, 2 squared is 4, and 4 minus 4 is 0. -2 squared, -2 times -2 is +4, and we get 4 minus 4 equals 0. That's why this has, because of that little squared term, we get 2 answers. Because when I have a negative and a negative, it gives me a positive, and when I have that same number squared in the positive zone, it also gives me that positive answer. Rachel, when you're ready and you have this all written down, come and arrow to the right to the next page. All right, we're going to solve these 3 equations by graphing. So if you don't remember how we do that, we make a little XY table, a little T-chart. I'm going backwards. I want to start with -3. Okay, so when I plug in -2 for x, I get -2 times -2, which is 4. -1 is 3. So I'm going to graph -2, 3. Then I'm going to put -1 in. -1 times -1 is 1. -1 is 0. Ooh, right there. Heck yeah, that's an x-intercept. Then I'm going to put in 0. 0 times 0 is 0. -1 is -1. Then I'm going to put in 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. That's another x-intercept. Then I'm going to put in 2. 2 squared is 4, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So that's over 2, that's 3. So my graph is going to look like this. Bless you. My answers are going to be at x equals -1 and x equals 1. This one as well. This one will go a little bit faster. Let's go negative. I'm going to squeeze the -2 in there. So -2 times -2 is 4. So that's -2 up here. -1 times -1 is 1. Right there. 0 times 0. 1 times 1. 2 times 2. When does my graph equal 0? When does this graph equal 0? Zero. So x equals 0 is the answer. Okay, does anybody remember what we talked about the last time we were in 9-1? We were looking at graphs and how the +1 on the end affected it. How the -1 on the end affected it, Morgan?
No.
Yeah, so it translates your parabola. This -1 takes my normal parent function, y equals x squared, and moves it down 1. So a +1 will take my parabola and move it up 1. So if I make a little xy table, we're going to go -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. -2 squared is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. -1 squared is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 0 squared is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Plus 1 is 2. And 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Where does this graph touch the x-axis? When is x squared plus 1 equal to 0? Never. What would I have to do to this equation? Like to the a coefficient to make it touch the x-axis. So if it were a frowny face, would it touch the x-axis? Yeah, so I could make the front of it negative, and that would make it frowny. Or I could, like we did over here, and instead of a +1, I can go -1. So you can change that too. Okay, so now you guys get to try x squared minus 9 equals 0. I'll give you the chart. You guys fill it out and graph. And we'll do one more for this. We'll go -3 to 3. Okay, so the reason that I put the 3's on here and we didn't do 3's in the ones above is because 3 times 3 is 9. In order to get to 0, I got to have a 9 minus 9. So -3 times -3 is 9. Minus 9 is 0. So I definitely needed the -3 on our list in order to get zeros. -2 times -2 is 4. 4 minus 9 is -5. -1 times -1 is 1. 1 minus 9 is -8. That's off of our chart, kind of right here. 0 squared is 0 minus 9 is -9. It's like right here. 1 squared minus 9 is -8. The reason they say it has symmetry is because it does. Everything on the left-hand side is mirrored on the right-hand side. So this is -5 and this is 0. So I definitely needed those 3's. X equals -3 and x equals 3 are the answers to this problem. All right, so we're going to use square roots. So, Connor, come on up. This will be super fun. We're going to treat the x squared like it was just a regular x. So if 3x squared minus 75 equals 0, or just like 3x minus 75 equals 0, how would I solve for x?
First you have to divide 75 by.
What's the opposite of minus 75?
Positive.
Yeah, so we're going to add 75 to both sides. So it's as if we were solving for x, but we're technically solving for x squared. Okay, so go ahead and get our resulting equation. 3x squared equals, thank you, Connor. Give Connor a big hand. All right, Donna, your turn. You got it. All right, so we got 3x squared equals 75. We're trying to get the x squared by himself. What do I have to do with that 3 to get x squared by itself? No. 3x squared equals 75. We're still on that one. We got to get x squared by himself.
Rolling and right.
Got to get rid of that 3. Yeah. All right, let's put the result down. X squared equals, what's 75? What, when I have 3 of them, I have 75 cents. And it's x squared equals 20. So put the squared on it. This one's the x. The x. There you go. Okay. So, once we get to x squared equals 25, we're now in uncharted territory. So, normally, if this were just a regular x problem, we would stop and go, yeah, x equals 25. But we are not in a, we have an x squared. So what is the opposite of squaring something, Paisley? I'll give you a hint. It has the word square. So what's the opposite of squaring something? It's got the word square in it. You want Rob to call him Rob Joe?
Square root.
Square rooting it. Okay. So we're going to square root both sides. The square root and the square get rid of each other. Here's the big important part. And we're going to, it's so important we're going to write it here. Anytime you square root both sides, make sure you have a plus version and a minus version. A plus version and a minus version. Because, Paisley, what is negative 5 times negative 5? 25. And what's 5 times 5? 25. So 5 and 25, or 5 and negative 5 will both give you 25 when you square it. That's why when we take the square root of both sides, you have to do the plus and the minus. All right, Rob, let me see. You can do x squared plus 49 equals 0. What is our first step? Yep, minus 49 for both sides. Rob, would it make you feel better if I were to tell you there's no solution?
Yeah.
Why is there no solution to x squared equals negative 49, Connor? Okay, so Rudy, what did Connor just tell us? Why is there no solution to x squared equals negative 49?
Guess two positives.
Oh, go ahead.
Guess two positives can't make a negative.
There's nothing that you can square that will give you a negative number. So when you get to here, if your x squared is equal to a negative number on that right-hand side, it's going to be no solution. So you have to be watching out for that. Just to let me show you what that picture looks like. This was also no solution. So there's no place where that parabola touches the x-axis. Jake. So you guys, now you tries. So the first one is when you add the 36 to both sides and then take the square root, you get plus or minus 6. If you guys were to do this on a test and you were to just write x equals plus or minus 6, you would not get full credit. You need the work to show that you know how to solve it. All right, when you subtract 15 and divide by 3, you get x squared equals negative 5. Since there's no numbers you can square to give you a negative number, then in this case there is no solution. Okay, so when we subtract 16 and divide by 4, we get x squared equals 0. And because the 0 is neither positive or negative, it's just x equals 0. And that's like our situation here, where it just touches a 0. All right, you guys are ready for your summary. As soon as your summary is done, let me put the things that I want you to write your summary about. We definitely want to include what the graph of the solutions looks like. Make sure you include what no solution looks like. Make sure you tell me how to solve for x squared. Include the plus and or minus rule. Make sure you put what no solution looks like. When solving.
Solutions.